Hello and welcome to this new episode of Open Book Entrepreneur. Today we have Barbara here with us, and she's a brand curator, been doing that for about 20 years. So loads of experience, loads of great stories from her clients. And Barbara, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Thank you, Tony. Well, I've been doing this for 20 years, like you just said. And so I think there's a lot you learn, most of them from your mistakes. So all of the things that you've failed at or struggled with were actually the very things that created the strongest frameworks and SOPs that we currently have in our company nowadays. And so, yeah, you're talking to somebody that has failed a lot, I think. And we've turned those into processes and systems and new ways of approaching things.
Wow, that's wonderful. I mean, it's so important to actually be able to learn from your own mistakes,
A
and
hundred percent.
yeah, and to build up from there. So, obviously, 20 years is a long time, but
Yeah.
also, what inspired you to originally start this business?
Yeah. Well, I've always found myself to be very entrepreneurial since a young age. I was about 15 when I started selling embroidery stuff when I was just a teenager. And that caught myself in a place of thinking, oh, it's going to be hard to when they have a boss because I love the idea of creating my own schedule, doing the things I love. But I have had a few bosses along the way, and until the very last one, where for me that was it. I was like, I want to be able to build and design something myself instead of just following along what somebody else is building. And back in 2001 was when I first started doing this as like, okay, this is my business. I don't have a job. I'm actually building, designing, creating something. And I've experimented with many things. Some people find it funny, but I was in catering. I was doing some teaching Portuguese. I've had dance academies. I've sold wedding dresses, and so it was always exciting. And I didn't know that when I would start the agency, I honestly didn't think that would stick for that long. I just thought, okay, this is what I'm doing now, and soon enough, I'm going to find something else that I'm interested in. But 20 years later, here I am, still counting the days, excited about what I do, and it fulfills. It's exciting. It's something that I believe is impacting many organizations, and so it's to the test of time. Yeah.
Totally. So, in
Yeah.
terms of the brands and branding, why is that important for businesses?
Whether you want it or not, people have perceptions of you, right? So whoever's looking from the outside, first, let's start with the fact that they may not be seeing you to start with. So there's a visibility thing that we have to focus on. But then once you pass the visibility, whether we want it or not, there is a perception, there is an understanding, and you can leave it up to chances where people just make their own conclusions, or you can design it. You can be involved in the process that says, I'm going to be intentional about how I want to be perceived, what story I'm telling, and how I want people to be defined by my brand, and that's where branding comes in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for most of the people, like branding means like colors on the website and things like that. So, can you tell us like what
Yeah.
is included in branding? What is covered by that?
Well, branding is interestingly enough, most people just think of the visuals at first. Like we think of our logos and our colors and our fonts, and that's a very important piece. But interestingly enough, it's actually the last thing we do. I love digging deep and really understanding like what is the heartbeat of your brand, like what makes you so different, why another one of you, whatever industry you're in. But I believe there's a specific heartbeat. There's something about that DNA that is unique. And once we go through this process of discovery, there's a bunch of questions. It's very, very intense, actually. You may answer questions you've never asked yourself before. We will create a roadmap, but that roadmap, I think the most important pieces of that roadmap is understanding what is your movement. So if I were to join what you're doing in your brand, is there a movement that you're starting? And if so, can I be a part of it? And it doesn't matter if you're selling candles on Etsy. You could be starting a movement, if that makes sense. And so there's a story that you're also telling. So that story generally speaks to the personality of the brand. as well as the personality of the people buying from you. And so it's in my opinion, it has more to do with communication and understanding who are the two parts interacting with each other. And then we get to the visuals. The visuals are kind of like that cherry on top. It's the last stage where we make things pretty.
Wow, yeah, so interesting. Okay, and then on top of that, if you're talking about brands, branding and stuff, like and your clients, obviously you helped a lot of companies, you're helping a lot of businesses. So what's the transformation they're going through?
Yeah, I think the biggest transformation that I've seen, and it's interesting that you asked that question because it happens every single time. The transformation is always them realizing who they are. It's like, oh, this makes sense. This is exactly who we are. So I don't find myself designing something that is like, wow, here's something trendy. This is your new brand, and go try to use it. It's more revealing what is already there. And so I always love the fact that clients can look at what we're presenting to them from a language standpoint, from a story standpoint, from a personality standpoint, and then visually. And they just feel like, yeah, this is us. Like it really represents who we are. And so for me, it's a revealing. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. And then on top of that, like if people want to get in touch with you, connect to you, how they can do that?
So our website is called Spice Inc. with a K, spiceinc.com. This is the new brand that we're launching. Like I said, we have an organization in the US where we work with nonprofits, and that's the one we've been developing and working on for 20 years. And we're now launching a more global view of what we can do for organizations in general under this new brand, which is Spice Inc. Yeah, so if you go to spiceinc.com, you'll find me.
Great. And just before we go, if there is any piece of advice you can share with someone who is actually thinking about, oh, we need to upgrade their brand, we need to improve it, and so on. What's one piece of advice you can share with them?
I think the most important part is really figure out what is the space that exists between you and the people you're trying to reach. And I believe there's 9 different gaps that can exist between you and them. And so we can have a visibility gap, we can have a value gap, we can have a timing gap. And so it's important for you to sit down and just simply recognize, okay, what is causing people to not buy from me, to not engage with me? And sometimes it is visibility, right? If you're a new brand and you're trying to get in the market, but other times it's not that. Sometimes it's something else. And so spend some time understanding what makes people say no to you, because then you can communicate the story that tells them they should.
Excellent. I love that. Barbara, thank you so much for being a guest today. Thank you all for watching, listening to this episode. If you have any questions for Barbara and me, you can ask them in the comments. And on top of that, I'll share the links in the description of this episode. So if you liked it, drop us a like, subscribe, and see you all in the next episode. Barbara, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tony.